right, if we could close our conversations. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. I appreciate all of the reflection and conversing that we've been able to share, and hopefully more to come as well. Considering here the last setting or environment that I want to invite us to reflect on, living hope in personal relationships. So this would be with our friends or family, no matter what kind of work or Holy Cross relationships we find ourselves in. We're all in personal relationship and in communion with one another. Just to offer as a kind of vignette or story for this myself, really appreciating, even at a distance, for loved ones who we maybe aren't sharing day-to-day life with in a certain sense, wanting to just emphasize and call upon the power of a personal phone call, especially for friends or loved ones that may not have heard from us for a while. We're all very busy people, and so sometimes it's hard to figure out when and how something like a phone call out of the blue can happen. Some of my friends have used audio messages or like voice memos as a way to at least stay in touch in some ways if you're not able to dedicate 30 or 60 minutes. But just in a really gritty, practical way, I was really so touched just last month by an MDiv classmate and friend of mine who called me really out of the blue. Hadn't heard from her in about 6 months and was really a close friend of mine when she was in South Bend and we were sharing life together more regularly. And I remember her sharing, Maureen, I'm honestly not in a great place right now. I'm having a hard time. I don't know like that this is like the right headspace that I wish I could be in to catch up, but here I am as I am, and I would just love to reconnect. And we ended up having a really blessed hour and a half conversation, and I was so encouraged, even when she admitted herself from the beginning, I'm not in a great place right now, I may not have that much to offer, that there was so much that her presence and even just her thoughtfulness to think to reach out to me was so powerful. The sharing that she offered, even through her suffering and the season that she was going through at that time, was really a great witness to me. And it was a reminder that we don't need to be any certain kind of way or with a brimming full cup of consolation or wellness in order to connect with others, to offer hope to others. And really this phone conversation and connection I've had with her is something I have particularly thought about very regularly since last month, with this singular insight that in prayer for this retreat, I really felt called to share with all of you. So this friend of mine, she was sharing about the season of life that she's in, and particularly for her, struggling with the season of singleness that she is in right now. And she said, Maureen, I was in prayer yesterday about this and just realized dating is just a means to an end, and the end is Jesus. Marriage is just a means to an end, and the end is Jesus. Our vocation is a means to an end, and the end is Jesus. And our friendship is a means to an end, and the end is Jesus. And our homes and our work and literally everything in the world is about nothing but Jesus, the Trinity, our heavenly home, and our unification with Him. And so whether you are in a season of life that reflecting on dating makes sense for you or not, I think that this kind of thinking, whatever it is a means to an end. And you may think that it has an end of some kind of worldly, secular consequence, but at the end of the day and at the end of all ends, the end is Jesus Christ and union with His Trinity. That it can be easy to lose sight of that in the midst of perhaps the dating life or perhaps the work grind or your family relationships, which are all very good things. And they do have ends, like kind of short-term or proximate ends, to get theological about it. But the ultimate end, the end of all ends, is Jesus. And the fact that she was able to offer this insight to me in the midst of experiencing a lot of weakness from herself, I remember at the end of her sharing this kind of reflection, she was like, I don't know if this is helpful for you at all, Maureen. Like, I'm just kind of rambling, and this probably doesn't make any sense. I said, Elena, this is truly so touching and very, very much was really a way that the Holy Spirit was speaking to me through her at that time. And something that, honestly, I've thought about this insight every day since we had this phone call last month. It may or may not appear as insightful to you and your state in life, but I offer it as food for thought, kind of framing even everything that we've talked about with hope and how we want to be putting these things into action with practical takeaways from this kind of retreat gathering. At the end of the day, everything that we're talking about is a means to unification with Jesus. And that is kind of the ultimate horizon and the frame that we ought to be considering everything in our lives. I thought that was a really blessed and fruitful insight, something I've thought about a lot and what I wanted to offer the community as well in whatever way it might be applied to your own situation and your own state in life. Just as an example and a fruit of how I experienced hope through a personal relationship recently was really being offered this insight from my friend. So that is kind of a singular takeaway, a pretty bold one-liner that I appreciate kind of leaving as a conclusion or a food for thought walking out of this time together, just to consider how everything that we are engaging in ought to be oriented toward the end of Jesus, and it's all a means to his end and to his purposes. So I will bring my reflections to a close there, and thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you today. All right. I think actually at this point I might invite a couple of minutes for general reflection.